All right. First, I just want to say thank you to everyone who came down today to provide your feedback. And it's really great to hear people who really care about their communities come here and have very specific asks about what they want and how we can support them and help them. So I want to make sure I turn it over to Brian so he can address an issue that I think is important to all of you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman. I think with respect to amplification, live music, and how the noise ordinance relates within the context of what we're talking about today, maybe staff can address that up front, and then we can take additional questions.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Currently, under the existing tiered winery ordinance, boutique wineries can have live amplified music, but they will require approval of an administrative permit in addition to their entertainment license that they would get through the Sheriff's Department. So that is the situation currently. Boutique wineries are allowed by right, so they can come in and set up and establish themselves. But in order to allow for that amplification of music, they will have to get an added permit.
Let me go. Thank you for that. Supervisor Desmond.
Could you say that again? Sorry.
So in order to amplify the music at events within the winery, they'll have to have an administrative permit approved prior to beginning that type of use.
And that's currently?
That's current, yes.
And then that would also apply to boutique. If this gets approved today, they'd have to come and get a music permit, I guess, to do that with this, what we approved today. Is that correct?
With what the board could direct us today, we will look at expanding the ordinance, and that would carry over the existing requirements for getting an administrative permit for the amplification of music.
If I may, Supervisor,
yeah.
Through the chairwoman. So I think we have, in terms of today's ordinance, we weren't specifically looking at that issue. So there's a question of what's allowed currently in the agricultural zones, and we do have some options for addressing that and providing by right opportunities for music, which the team could look at through upcoming zoning ordinance cleanups or amendments, including stakeholder outreach that would go with that. So we could look at that component. If the board would also like for us to look at expanding music options and some of the options presented, that could be done as well. However, that would have to be examined under those options that include an environmental analysis, because once we start looking at zones that have a lot of residences nearby, we do need to analyze what the impacts would be.
Okay.
So we could address today's issue in the ag zones at no cost through our existing zoning ordinance update, or we could consider this issue in any future expansion as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. This has been a long time coming, and I'm glad to see it return to the board. And I want to thank PDS for putting all these options together. I thought this was a wine agenda item, but it turned into a music agenda item. So I'll just briefly go ahead. The wineries, you know, and all the activities that surround them, from growing grapes to retail sales, they promote agritourism. They're major economic driver for the region. Agriculture is a multi-billion-dollar industry in our county. And I think we should be doing more to support the growers and the winery operations. While that actually helps build the economy here in Ramona and throughout the unincorporated area, which is why I like the idea of allowing these uses. Actually, these uses are abutting rural residential zones. So this is not a radical concept. I mean, as it is, certain cities already do this. In my district, Oceanside does this. And they allow boutique wineries in rural residential areas. And yet we in the county, for the people who live across the street from the city limits, see the city's able to do it, but we're not. So I'm glad we're finally catching up. So I do want to move forward with this today. I would like to see us move forward and then potentially give direction to maybe come back with opportunities for music options. One of the gentlemen from the Chamber of Commerce, he had suggested limited amplified music. And that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. But it sounds like we've already got this pretty much handled, or you know, when we're dealing with houses nearby and other things, so we've got sort of a system already in place. So I would like to see that come back to us, and if my colleagues want to revise that in any way, but I would like to pass this today, what we have in front of us, and then have the staff come back with options for amplified music at the wineries. So I'm hearing that that music is the sound of money coming to the region. So we want to make sure everybody's viable, but also neighbor-friendly as well. So I'm going to make a motion for taking option 1, which expands the areas in which wineries can operate subject to an administrative permit and it's going to increase by about the number of, for the land use from about 33,000 to 62,000 acres, which is a lot, in rural residential. And this is the least cost, quickest way to increase the allowances into our tiered winery ordinance, and we have the money for this already within the current budget and within the next year's budget. And our next year's land, what is it, the sustainable land use framework working. So this is an administrative permit. It's fairly minor, and it still allows our staff to ensure these projects are compatible with the existing land uses. So I'd like to make the motion for option 1 for this report, and then for the staff to come back with options for amplified music at these venues and even at other venues, so we can be fair across the board in both ag and the rural residential areas. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question, a clarifying question. So what does that mean? Because I still am want to make sure that I understand this. So what does that mean for them right now? Right, and how long would the ordinance process take? Because it's going to be, I mean, it's San Diego, it's spring, this is when people come out, you know, and I love the wineries. So can we just find out, what does that mean in terms of timing? Yes.
So right now, a winery, a boutique winery that would like to have live amplified music would have to get an administrative permit, which there's a cost and time associated with that permit. In order to remove that requirement, we'll have to amend the zoning code. We could pair this type of action to remove the requirement for an administrative permit with an upcoming zoning code amendment that staff is working on separately. And the time frame for that is approximately 12 months, which we could start, you know, by the springtime. Until then, the requirement for an administrative permit still exists, and we can't waive that until we would amend the ordinance to do so.
Okay. And how long does it take to get, so if I was a winery owner and I wanted to get a permit today, how much does it cost and how much is it so that I can have music?
Yeah, Chairwoman Vargas, it typically takes around 6 to 12 months to obtain an administrative permit.
Oh, wow.
It could be quicker depending on how fast the applicant kind of addresses issues and prepares the studies. In terms of the cost, most of it is driven by environmental review and state law requirements. It can range from $20,000 to $30,000 depending on how sensitive the site is and some of the issues that need to be looked at.
Okay, I'm going to let my colleagues ask more questions. Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for some of the folks that are watching our board meeting, like Napa, Ramona is a state-recognized wine region. It's an actual wine region. It's not something that Ramona made up. The state has recognized it as a wine region. Second, I've had a lot of community coffees. I've represented this area for over 15 years. I've watched the wine region grow. They've really matured as the vineyards have matured. Their wine has matured, and we've got great products up there. And I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and Bob for outstanding work. This is a community of fewer than 22,000 people, and yet they have 2,000. So this tells you that the demand for music in the community is very high. I can't go to Ramona that somebody doesn't bring this to my attention. And like in every community, there's a small group of people that oppose everything, and they have every right to. I'd like to second the motion of my colleague, but I'd also like to offer a friendly amendment I think that you'll like. And we've heard a lot of people today from Ramona who would welcome the opportunity to have live music at wineries. I want to be clear, though, that we're not talking about huge rock concerts or even music that you'd hear at a large wedding. I would like staff to look at how boutique wineries can have live music with parameters. This would include possible limit on hours in types of amplification. I also think they should be able to do more than 6 community events a year if the setup is correct. I request that staff would also do community outreach in the with the unincorporated residents, which you always do, and I appreciate that. But can we, a little unrelated to this, I would like you to look into allowing live music in additional events as part of the upcoming update to the zoning ordinance. So, Davia, everything you said were music to my ears, because that's exactly what I intended to make in a motion. But if we could do that, and if the motion maker would accept it, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. When someone says yes, I'm going to stop talking.
Vice Chair Lawson-Weimer?
Yeah, first of all, just thank you to the team for the work. I'm personally very excited about the opportunities for our region's economy, and like the chair, I also like to go to wineries, so I'm a personal fan, and have received a lot of positive communications from my own constituents who don't necessarily live in Ramona, but are excited to frequent the region. So I think option 1 makes sense, and happy to see this move forward, and appreciate the clarification about the live music, which seems to be a big thing that people are excited about. So thanks.
Supervisor Montgomery Stepp?
Thank you very much, Chair. I also am in support of this motion. Based on competing budget priorities, I think it's a prudent option. I do like option 3 with the overlay zones, but I understand that, we're open to exploring those things as we move forward. We're going to have a lot of work to do around this, so I'm very supportive of the additional changes that are in the motion as well. I just wanted to bring up one thing maybe to think about as we move forward. Just any reference to the San Diego Food Systems Alliance 2030 Food Vision Plan for more in-depth food systems planning opportunities that can be explored as we go through this process of the Sustainable Land Use Framework. For me, this doesn't, of course, impact my district as much because it of course, impacts the unincorporated areas, but there are some urban areas within the county unincorporated that may benefit from this as well. And we're seeing, as we see arts and entertainment districts kind of pop up, I would just want to make sure that everyone has the type of access and benefit that this will bring. So thank you very much, and I'm really excited about it, and I'll be visiting Ramona very soon.
We'll have to do a tour. All right. All right, with that, seeing no additional comments, and thank you for that additional motion, and appreciate all the feedback from my colleagues. I think anytime we can understand that there's rules and laws, but I think if there's anything that we can do to help support, especially our small businesses, happy to do that any way we can. All right, with that, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
And Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present voting aye.